Okay, so here's another example. What I want to show you here is the way that several different results can all be governed by a common language. So this is supposed to be a kind of Greek sculpture looking guy, this is supposed to be an Incredible Hulk looking guy, and this is Homer Simpson. And the point I want to illustrate is that they're all built up out of the basic forms that we're going to be looking at. And so if you can achieve some sort of fluency with these basic forms, it gives you a lot of freedom, and it's up to you what kind of things you build out of that. And this is quite a liberating thing. It allows you to see the common construction among many different sorts of figurative drawing and painting and sculpture. And I think it's a really key next stage in people's development. Whereas at first perhaps we tend to think in terms of technique, like the mark making and so on. And that is important. And there's even different things going on just between these three drawings. But more than that, it's the conception of form. That the technique, if you like, the material technique hangs off of or is overlaid on. So you can see there's already some these orange lines showing the surface, the contour of these structures, and it'd be useful to do maybe a draw over of some of this so that we can have a closer look at exactly what is going on. So maybe we start with Homer over here and look at him, how he's constructed. So the basic construction of a character like this is something in the animation industry. You get a recipe for oops, I'm doing this on the wrong layer, excuse me, just go back. In the animation industry you get a what's known as a model sheet, and it's basically the recipe for constructing a character. And you can look at these online, they're fascinating actually. So the idea is that all the animators in a studio should be able to draw the same character in any position. So there's a kind of agreed way of building it up. So Homer's got this kind of sphere with a bit of a cylinder coming off of it, and then it tapers back into his body, which is something like a truncated cone. And you can see the center line coming over this sphere down the face, the eyes themselves. Contour lines running over the sphere. You see the contour lines help to explain the direction that the pupil's facing. Homer's nose really just a cylinder, like a bullet shape, a rounded cylinder, and his mouth, the muzzle shape. We can follow this center line down over the top lip, coming around like this. And this is the interesting thing about this section of the mouth is how anatomical it is. If you think of a skull, sort of a realistic skull, the dental cylinder like this, coming out the chin, the jaw, coming back. You can see that this section is really not that different in construction to this part of the character. And animation, hand-drawn animation, is a great place to look for anatomical simplifications, because that's what everything's based on. Because to animate successfully, you need to be able to draw a form from any point of view. So it's not enough to make an outline drawing. We need to be able to do things like with this shirt collar, we need to be able to track it in space so we can see how it would go round and where it would come out on the other side. So this is all the stuff that we've looked at in this lesson. You know, how to run lines over a form, and throughout the course this is something we're going to refine so that we can start to do this a bit more fluently, a bit more intuitively, and then you'll start to see a real difference in your drawing. Let's go over to our Greek sculpture. Not so different really. You can almost see that the cranium could be a sphere with a kind of wedge form coming off of it. That we can run a centre line over this too. We'll ignore the nose for a moment. On a realistic head, the side of the head is flattened somewhat. But the neck is a cylinder, pretty straightforwardly. Let's zoom in and have a look at the smaller forms. Oops. The sphere of the eyeball. Let's go right in to the eye, just so that I can show you how this is, all these principles operate at every level. So we'll make the upper eyelid, the lower eyelid, and we'll draw some contours over that. So coming down the forehead, and you can start doing this now. Any drawing that you want to analyze, you can start trying to draw this imaginary surface contour line running over the forms. So coming down the forehead, cutting back to the eye socket, out onto the upper lid. The upper eyelid has a thickness like that, and over the sphere, out onto this little ledge, down. Same with the nose. Front surface of the nose, cutting back. The philtrum area above the top lip, cutting back. The top lip is cutting back in like a ledge, then out again, then back in again, and so on. And this starts to help give you an idea of what the characteristics of a form are. So you'll notice things with in Greek sculpture, the way that anatomical features are regularized. So for instance, you quite often in the male figures you tend to get a very straight brow, you tend to get a smoothed out transition here in a profile view of the skull. When the nose joins the face, you get another outcrop there before the forehead. Like out, in, out. And this part here is called the glabella. So we'll see it here on this Incredible Hulk type guy. Forehead comes out, this glabella comes in, then the nose juts out. In a lot of Greek sculpture, this transition is smoothed out so that you don't really it's almost like one continuous plane from the forehead through to the front plane of the nose, and this is great to start becoming aware of because you see exactly how you see the conceptual work that's been done on the body that we might at first glance or naively take to be a realistic look. I can't remember who said it, but I know somebody said that if you look at Michelangelo's sculptures of heads, we take them for being realistic, but at the same time, when you really think about it, you wouldn't believe it if someone said that was a cast taken from somebody's face, that they've got more to do with architecture than anatomy. And I think that's a really good thing to bear in mind. In a sense, we're thinking architecturally about anatomy in these cases. We'll see later on that this is going to help us with our lighting, because if you know which planes are facing up and which planes are facing down, which are facing left and which are facing right, then if you have a clear idea of your light direction, that allows you to invent light, to modify what's there when you're working from observation and so on. One of the simple principles we're going to look at is the idea that light, when it comes from above, you can think of it almost like snow. So anything that's facing up, so snow falling onto a building, if a house has a roof that's overhanging the building, so change the weather. So snow's falling, it's going to hit the roof, it's not going to hit this stuff because it's sheltered. It's not going to hit this stuff as much. It's definitely not going to hit that bit. So we can think of light in the same way, that the underplane of the nose is facing down, so that's not going to get light. The underplane of the top lip is facing down, similarly not going to get light. All this area under here is sheltered. It starts to give you quite a lot of control and kind of makes sense of perhaps some of those drawings that when you look at by other artists and you feel like they've got a consistency of lighting that you never really find unless you're working in super controlled conditions. I always used to wonder about that. I always used to wonder how the lighting was so clear, but I realise now that they make it clear very often. Okay, last one. Similar thing. So in all in the upcoming courses I'm going to do, the next in-depth anatomical course will be on the skull, and one of the things I want to do in that is to do a compare and contrast of all of the available ways, or the most popular ways of breaking down the head. They're all different, they've all got something to offer, but very often what you'll see in head drawing is some kind of egg or a ball for the cranium, and some kind of mass hanging off of the front. And it's just that in different proportions, whether it's a sort of humanoid face or even if it's just like a cartoon character. It's the same kind of construction, so we'll look at that. And this, when you start looking at that, you can learn a lot about proportions. So when you look at this Incredible Hulk type of character, sorry Hulk fans if I've not done a very faithful version, I've just cobbled this together. But one of the things you see is that he has a really small cranium and a kind of massive facial structure hanging off of that giant sort of jaw. We can go in and look at some of these planes we spoke about before. So he does have this plane above the nose. He also has a front plane, an underplane, and this is a really good exercise just to try and work out exactly where things join, how they plug in together, so that you're not guessing, you're really spelling it out to yourself. You wouldn't do this with every drawing, but as an exercise it's excellent because it makes you explain what's happening. And this just becomes part of your toolkit. And this is really just how a sculptor would work, isn't it? If you imagine somebody carving out of stone, it's kind of block-like conceptions. Okay, so that gives you a sense of the application of some of the things that we've looked at already, and that we're going to look at even more in the rest of the course.